It was February 26, 2014. 21-year-old Christian Andreakio had just returned home from a month at sea, working the grueling schedule of a towboat captain in training. He was tired, anxious, and ready to rest. Less than an hour later, he was found dead from a single gunshot wound to the head inside his own bathroom. Authorities called it a suicide. But Christian's family, they never bought that story because what they discovered would raise alarming questions. Why was there gunshot residue on someone else's hands? Why did Christian's own cell phone vanish for days, only to reappear scrubbed clean? And why, despite all the evidence pointing to foul play, did the system close the case in just 45 minutes? Stay with us as we unfold one of the most controversial cases Mississippi has ever seen: the tragic and still unresolved death of Christian Andreakio. If you believe in justice for the voiceless, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and share this story. It's time the world hears Christian's truth. Christian Andreakio was born and raised in Meridian, Mississippi, a small town where everybody knows your name and secrets rarely stay buried. He was ambitious beyond his years. By 21, Christian had secured a job working as a deckhand on a tugboat, with dreams of becoming a captain. The long shifts, 30 days on, 30 days off, were tough, but Christian had plans, goals, and he was laser-focused. Those closest to him say he had a big heart and a protective nature, especially toward his younger siblings. He was goofy, loyal, and deeply proud of his accomplishments. But behind the smiles, things weren't perfect. He had been dating 17-year-old Whitley Goodman, a troubled teenager known for partying and pushing boundaries. Christian's family never liked her. They said she was manipulative, controlling, toxic, and over time, Christian began to change. Christian had just completed a month-long shift aboard the Magnolia Marine boat. It was a high-stress period, but nothing unusual for him. What was unusual was a call he made to his mother just hours before his death. Christian seemed upset. He told her he was done with Whitley, tired of the lying, the stealing, and the constant drama. He even said he wanted her out of his apartment. Christian's best friend, Dylan Swearingen, picked him up from the dock that day. But instead of going straight home, they went on a strange detour. Dylan insisted they stop and get cash. Then they drove to Christian's apartment where Whitley was staying, uninvited. Within 45 minutes, Christian was dead. The 911 call came in at 4:45 p.m. My friend shot himself," Dylan told the dispatcher, his voice eerily calm. Police arrived to find Christian slumped over in the upstairs bathroom. The gun, a .45 caliber pistol, was still at the scene. To the naked eye, it might have seemed open and shut, but there were red flags everywhere. Christian's body was already stiff when officers arrived, suggesting he had been dead for hours, not minutes. Blood spatter patterns contradicted a self-inflicted shot. The bullet trajectory didn't line up with a typical suicide angle. And Christian's own cell phone, missing. Whitley claimed she had been asleep on the couch for most of the day. Dylan gave conflicting accounts. And still, the Meridian Police Department ruled it a suicide within 45 minutes. No autopsy, no forensic analysis. Case closed. Or so they thought. Christian's mother, Ray, refused to accept what the authorities were telling her. She began her own investigation, hiring private forensic experts, scouring through text messages, and interviewing people who knew Whitley and Dylan. And what she uncovered was chilling. Christian had texted a co-worker just before his death, saying he feared Whitley had been using his car and draining his bank account. He also said he was going to confront her when he got home. The motive was forming. There were also text messages Whitley had deleted, only some of which were later recovered. Messages that painted a picture of a turbulent relationship on the edge of collapse. If this story hits you the way it hit us, drop a comment below. Do you think this was suicide or something far more sinister? Your voice matters. Christian's autopsy revealed no evidence of soot or gunpowder on his hands, something expected in a suicide. But tests showed gunshot residue on Whitley and Dillon. Even more suspicious, Christian's phone was recovered days later, factory reset and clean of data. Private investigators found that Whitley had logged into Christian's online banking account after his death. She also had prior incidents of threatening self-harm in front of him. Tactics of emotional manipulation, Ray believed. Witnesses told investigators that Whitley and Dillon had been together that day, and some claimed they had discussed staging a suicide if things went south. Still, prosecutors declined to press charges. Who was Whitley Goodman? To the public, she was just a teenager, barely 17 when Christian died, but to those who knew her best, she was a girl with secrets and scars. Her relationship with Christian had become volatile. There were reports of frequent arguments, suspected infidelity, and emotional manipulation. Christian had even written in a journal that he didn't feel safe around her anymore. After Christian's death, Whitley stayed in the apartment for hours. She allegedly washed clothes, rearranged furniture, even napped, while Christian's body remained upstairs in the bathroom. She later told police she didn't hear the gunshot. She also claimed Christian had been acting suicidal, but texts between them told a different story. Christian was planning to break up with her. And just days earlier, Christian told multiple co-workers that if anything happened to him, Whitley would be responsible. So why wasn't she investigated more thoroughly? Dylan Swearingen, Christian's supposed best friend, had one job: pick Christian up from the boat, drive him home, and help him get Whitley out of the apartment. Instead, Dylan became a central figure in a mystery that still haunts the town of Meridian. His statements to police were inconsistent. In one version, he says Christian went upstairs alone and shot himself. In another, he says he was downstairs and heard nothing. Phone records showed Dylan left the apartment multiple times that day. One neighbor even claimed to see him pacing near a dumpster outside, shortly before Christian was found dead. Then came the most puzzling detail of all. Dylan admitted to moving Christian's body. He claimed he found Christian dead, panicked, and tried to clean things up. He said he pulled Christian's pants up, moved the gun, and even washed his hands. This, of course, contaminated the crime scene and made it nearly impossible to determine the truth. Yet Dylan was never charged with obstruction. The Meridian Police Department's handling of the case raised more questions than answers. From the rushed classification of suicide to the failure to secure and process the crime scene, many believe the case was mishandled from day one. Detective Thompson, who originally led the investigation, admitted he didn't test the bullet trajectory properly. The crime scene photos were incomplete. No fingerprints were taken from the gun, and perhaps most damaging of all, the coroner marked the death as suicide based on verbal reports alone, not forensic evidence. Christian's family believed there was a cover-up, either through incompetence or willful ignorance. They pushed the case up the chain, eventually catching the attention of multiple investigative outlets, including Crime Watch Daily and Culpable, a podcast that reignited national interest in the case. The deeper they dug, the more it became clear justice had not been served. In 2019, the podcast Culpable launched a 14-part series investigating Christian's death. The series went viral, attracting millions of downloads. Listeners across the country became armchair detectives, dissecting evidence, challenging narratives, and demanding accountability. Ray Andreakio, Christian's mother, became the voice of a movement. She wasn't just seeking justice for her son. She was exposing the cracks in a legal system that failed a grieving family. "I don't want revenge," Ray said in an emotional interview. "I just want the truth. And I want someone to be held accountable for taking my son's life." The podcast led to new witness statements, additional forensic analysis, and renewed pressure on Mississippi's Attorney General to reopen the case. And for a brief moment, it seemed like justice was within reach. In January 2020, after mounting public pressure, a grand jury was convened to review the evidence. Many hoped this would finally lead to indictments. The jury examined autopsy reports, reviewed witness statements, and listened to expert testimony. They had access to crime scene photos, ballistics data, and phone records. But when the decision came down, it hit like a thunderclap. No indictments, not against Whitley, not against Dylan, not against the officers who mishandled the investigation. The grand jury concluded there wasn't enough evidence to charge anyone with a crime. For Ray and the Andreakio family, it was another devastating blow in a long, bitter battle, but they didn't give up. Ray Andreakio has become more than a grieving mother. She's become an advocate. She speaks at universities, attends rallies, and works with wrongful death organizations to shine light on under-investigated cases. She has even pushed for new legislation in Mississippi, laws that would require more stringent forensic standards in suicide cases. Christian's story isn't just a personal tragedy. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when justice is rushed, evidence is ignored, and victims are silenced. Supporters continue to call for the case to be reopened. A change. Org petition demanding a full investigation has gathered over 300,000 signatures. And every time Ray speaks, one message rings clear. I won't stop. I'll keep fighting. Because Christian deserves that, and so does every other family still searching for answers. More than a decade has passed since Christian Andreakio was found dead. And yet, the questions remain. How did a young man, with dreams of becoming a tugboat captain, end up in a bathroom with a bullet in his head, hours after texting that he feared for his life? Why was his case closed in under an hour? Why were witnesses allowed to tamper with a crime scene? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, if Christian didn't pull the trigger, who did? If this story moved you, if you believe Christian deserves answers, don't let his case fade into silence. Like this video, share it with someone, and subscribe to help us uncover the truth behind more cases like this. Because sometimes justice needs a louder voice, and today that voice could be yours.